can get started.
Yeah.
So, hi everybody, and thank you very much for joining us for our webinar on enterprise keyword strategies that everybody can use. I'll start off by doing a quick introduction, and then we can get into the nitty-gritty of things. My computer's being a bit slow today. So Martina, would you like to start off and introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So my name is Martina. I'm from the Czech Republic. I've been doing international SEO for over 12 years. And I work internally in organizations like Ikea or agency side like Accenture. And now I'm a freelance consultant. And my area of expertise is B2B and B2C in various industries.
Thank you so much. The slides really don't like me today.
Well, apparently.
Here we go. So I think lots of you who have joined probably already know me. As I can see, lots of Dragonmetrics clients logged in. So I'm the digital marketing director at Dragonmetrics. Before I joined Dragonmetrics, I was an international SEO consultant, which I was doing for about 12 years. And during my time doing international SEO, I've been working for companies like Airbnb, Microsoft, Volvo, and companies like that. In my free time, I'm a bit of a psychology nerd, and went back and studied psychology because I thought it was a great idea at the time. But now I really enjoy, combining my expertise in psychology with SEO because it has a lot more in common than you probably would think. But anyway, we're not here to talk about psychology or who we are. Today, we are going to be talking about keyword strategies. So I thought we'd start off with a little presentation and then we can show you some practical tips inside the platform. So we could start at the very beginning by talking about kind of where to start with keyword research, especially if you're a smaller company who doesn't have a strategy in place yet. But all of the tips we're going to show you are going to be very much things that you can use in larger companies. And these are all things that we've used as well within kind of the enterprise settings that we've worked in as well. So why don't we start with busting a few myths about SEO tools? Because I know that when it comes to tools, people have lots of, predispositions about, which tools are best, which ones they should be using. Do they need licenses to every single tool? The answer is actually is quite different to how you probably first thought. So the way SEO tools work is they all collect data in very different ways. So if you see data presented in, say, SEMrush, SE Ranking, Ahrefs, Dragonmetrics in very different ways, it's not a case of, one tool is better than the other, that has a bigger database, that sort of thing. It's just that we're all different. So that's a very good thing to keep in your mind and be open-minded when you're looking to try different tools. It's important to know as well that there isn't one source of truth when it comes to data. So lots of you have probably noticed that, SEO tools have different search volume data, lots of different, numbers of backlinks, things like that. There isn't actually one source of truth because, the way SEO tools collect data isn't as, accurate as most people first think. So again, when judging a different tool, it's really important that you're not like, oh, well, SEMrush says this, so therefore it's bad, and you have to go with what SEMrush says. That's not the case. In our industry as well, there's a bit of a myth that our data is really, really accurate and we have all of these tools, when actually, in fact, it's not quite the truth. So as I was saying, kind of moving on from the other points, unless you really have access to kind of somebody's Google Analytics, unless you are Google and you know what people are searching for, it's okay if the data is a little bit different between tools because there's no, one really accurate way of doing things. And one really important point that we've both come across when doing international SEO is not many tools can handle international markets. So when I was an international SEO consultant, I actually moved over to Dragonmetrics because it was the only tool that could actually do, keyword research for Baidu in China. Other tools said that they could do it, but they only did, Google, for example, Google in China, which doesn't help because of the different search engines. So when you are choosing a tool, make sure that it works internationally and get people in the countries to actually choose the tool with you. Because like we've both experienced in the Czech Republic, it's a small language, not many people speak it, so not many tools kind of invest the time to look into, good databases for keyword research.
And what
So
I would suggest, just don't rely on the information provided by the BDRs who are actually trying to sell you the tool, because these people will usually tell you like our database for this language consists of this million X million words, but that doesn't mean anything because that doesn't tell you actually whether in your industry or your niche they exactly have the database rich for the keywords that you actually really need to track. So what's best is just to, try the free trial or set up a call with them, but ask them to provide them a list of keywords and really ask them to show you the data for that list of keywords. Because what they would normally do if their databases are not good, they would show you like keywords tracking for, let's say, like keyword sets that they have the databases ready for and that have very high volumes, but that won't reflect your situation. And then you will just end up in a misery because you won't be able to track anything. And I was in that situation. So this is just something that's just coming from my experience.
yeah, that's something I saw as well, that for example, when I was looking for an SEO tool in my previous role, that people would tell me, oh yeah, we're really, really good at Check. I would sign up for the free trial and test it out. And actually it was really lacking even for basic keywords, for example, like toys, and things like that. And then I can imagine how different it would be for languages, for example. I don't know, like Malaysian or languages that I can't even speak. You'd have to get somebody in country to really look into that for you if you want a decent way of finding out. Okay, so I think we've got the SEO tool stuff out the way. Hopefully that didn't scare you too much about the world of SEO tools. And now we can move on to some of the things regarding keyword research and how to get started with that.
Yeah.
I think the
Maybe
keyword
do we also want to like knock the topic about like AI and keyword research or not yet?
we have that later. So we can do
Okay.
that now or we can do that later.
Okay.
I know that that's something that loads of people want to look into as well. So we couldn't not have that. So when kind of I get started on keyword research with new companies, especially bigger companies, I find one of the best ways to start is actually checking what keywords you're ranking for. Because by checking what keyword you're ranking for, you can see, is it relevant? Is my SEO performing correctly? Do they reflect my SEO goals? And by using a tool a bit like Dragonmetrics that you can use to find out this information, you're able to get loads of keywords in bulk really quickly, which is good for large websites as well. Anything you'd like to add, Martina?
No, not yet. I think my
Okay.
time's coming once you're showcasing everything in the tool.
Perfect. So let's move on and check the next slide.
My laptop doesn't really like you today.
It does not, and it worked just fine because we went live, and it's always typical, isn't it, that it doesn't want to work once we are live. But hey ho, we'll do what we can, and I'll just move over the slide a bit earlier next time. If it's still going to play up, I'll just come out of it, and then we can take a look.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
Check your competition. So for those of you who do keyword research and do not check your competition, you are missing out on something massive, because checking your competition, you can find out what keywords they're ranking for, what keywords they're ranking for and you're not, by using, keyword gap features, which are really, really useful. Again, it gives you bulk access to data. So if you're doing, for example, big e-shops or stuff like that, you can get access to lots of data without having to do it individually and kind of, playing a guessing game as to what these websites are ranking for. You can also find out about their strategy as well through doing this. So are they focusing maybe on X product? Are they focusing on Y product? What are they doing? What's working? What's not working? And you can also find out who their organic competition is, because companies often come to me and are like, this company is my biggest competition. You go and look online and the other company is not doing SEO. And they're like, actually, this small company is their biggest competition online and something that you need to be working towards. So it's really, really important that you do check your competition.
Yeah, I'm glad you're mentioning this because this is something that people often don't realize. When I comes out like different companies, they always tell me, yeah, these are our competitors and these are our competitors. It's like, and are you sure that for every vertical or every cluster or category, you have the same competitors? And they're convinced about it. And then when we look into the data, we usually find out that the story is a little bit different. So I think conducting a competitors audit or research is a very important part of any SEO strategy.
It's so true what you mentioned about the verticals as well, because I keep using IKEA as an example, but when you're dealing with products that are like, I don't know, garden furniture, or you're dealing with kitchens, or you're dealing with, office furniture, you'll have different competitors by vertical, because if you're looking at kitchens, you'll be competing with, kitchen fitters and some national level kitchen fitters and even local ones. So yeah, that's really, really important that you look at that as well. And then once you've done all of that, you can kind of do your own keyword research. So some of the things that we wanted to touch on with doing your own keyword research were things like zero volume keyword research, relevance, low search volumes, exact match keywords, and some of the things that may sound basic, but a lot of companies forget.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything on zero volume keywords?
Yeah, so what I usually see is that people try to focus on the highest volume keywords, but what they don't realize is that these keywords are often too general and everyone's trying to target them. However, these keywords are usually not those that are really generating business because people are using pretty much general keywords only at the initial stage of finding something. And at that stage, there's usually not this intent for purchase. The good thing is that Dragon Metrics also provides the data, whether the keyword is transactional, intentional, etc. However, it's not just about the volume. It needs to be relevant to your business. So definitely when you're tracking keywords for your business, you have to track also keywords that have very low volumes because these keywords, those has the low volumes are usually the long tail keywords, meaning that there are more words within that keyword set. But people already are in a phase that they know what to purchase. So how to imagine that? When I'm looking for a swimsuit, it's just very general. I still don't know what I want, right? Whether I want tankini, whether I want bikini or whatever. But when I start looking about like the yellow bikini with flowers, for example, I'm at the stage that when I find something that I really like that consists of all of these, I will just purchase as a customer. So target the low search volume keywords and target those that are long tail keywords because those are usually relevant for your business.
And I think as well, like depending on the vertical of your business, because some of my worst, well, I wouldn't say worst projects, but most complex projects that I've had to deal with have been things like light curtains for elevators or ballast systems for trains, and really, really complex stuff that say maybe only 10 people a month are searching for if you're really, really, really lucky. And then when you're going to turn that international, so say, I remember with the ballast systems, quite a lot of German people were searching for that. But in the UK, less people were. And then when you take it into countries like Poland or the Czech Republic, even less people are searching for that. So if it has like really low search volumes, it's totally okay because you would much rather convert 10 people who are specifically looking for your exact product than catering to 500 who don't really want your exact product and don't buy. And another little SEO tool tip is if it's in the SEO tool, people are searching for it, even if it says zero search volume. So don't be put off by that. It's a bit of a myth that you should never touch them. And especially for up and coming project, keywords as well, because like there was a day when nobody had heard of ChatGPT, but yeah, people were optimizing for ChatGPT and then it suddenly exploded. So that's all right as well.
But the relevancy is very important because if you imagine, for example, a situation you're running a company that is specializing in galvanizing, it doesn't make any sense for you to target search terms like what is galvanizing because it might have high volumes, and people might search for what galvanizing is, but your target audience will not look for that because your target audience is looking for the service and they know exactly what galvanizing is and what it's used to and when they exactly need it. So that's not going to be a relevant audience you would attract trying to target this search term. That would not make any sense. So just really do it wisely because it's all you need to do for your business. You're just trying to convert. You're just trying to bring in that lead, but you don't need everyone. Because if you had a normal store, your goal is not to attract like 100 people who will never buy anything into that store. No, you want to attract people who are going to purchase eventually, not even during the first visit, but eventually they will.
Exactly. And I think that leads on to exact match keywords as well, that there's a kind of lots of people in the industry kind of seem to think that it's if there's a keyword that's say best dress and best dresses, because it's plural, they need to be targeting both. But you know, we're lucky that we're in the age now that people, you know, Google can understand the difference between them. So you don't really need to worry about things like that. And especially in languages, for example, I know we keep using Czech, but you can use it, for example, in German, in so many different languages that say the grammar changes depending on the type of word. You do not have to use the exact match keyword in the text, even if, you know, because it looks wrong, it looks weird, Google can understand it, basically.
We've got a question. What do you mean by if it's in the SEO tool but isn't showing volume? Wouldn't any keyword or keyword price show up, but show up as no volume?
Sometimes it shows up as no volume, and then sometimes it shows up as no data. And when I'm talking about SEO tools, I'm not just talking about Dragonmetrics, I'm talking about, you know, SEO tools in general that I've seen elsewhere. So for example, in certain tools, it will come up and say zero, actually specifically say zero search volume. So it's in there. If it's in there, it means people are searching for it, even if it's saying zero or has no data.
And also what I would suggest, I think it's the last thing I have to this topic. If you take a look at those keywords with like low search volumes, just try to take a look also at the CPC. If you see CPC and you see the CPCs are quite high, then definitely that's something that users search for. Even though the search volume for organic may be low, but still it's important and the businesses are trying to bid on those keywords.
And it means you have quite a lot of competition as well if the CPC is higher. So that's a really, really, really good tip. Okay, I can see, do we have another question that's come in there?
That's super helpful. Okay, yeah, you're welcome.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so just trying to move on to the next slide.
Maybe.
Press it in advance and it doesn't want to listen.
Yeah, this is good. I like it, you know, because I'm a patient. So this is really a good price, you know, for me.
Yeah, so create a strategy. So once you've done all the research and once you've looked at it, it's kind of sometimes people create a massive list of keywords and they're like, right, let's go and SEO it. Creating a massive list of keywords is not going to help you, and doing keyword research like that, again, is not going to be much help. I see it quite a lot in international SEO as well. That, for example, you know, when you're doing keyword translations, you have a massive list and people say, okay, this is you know, the source language, this is the target language, go and optimize with that. Not going to help, I'm sorry. So what you need to be doing is mapping keywords to individual pages, because you need to make sure that, you know, keywords are not used over every single page, so you're not competing against each other. You need to make sure that the keywords are, you know, unique to a specific page. So that's where a service called keyword mapping would come in. You need to set KPIs as well for your, you know, your optimization efforts, because again, I see this in international SEO an awful lot, that people kind of don't set KPIs for their international SEO, and that is something that you should be doing. And set KPIs based on, you know, organic traffic, number of top 10 keywords, whatever you want, that sort of thing. all of the keywords that you've got as well, especially long tail keywords, you should be using them to create a content plan and a content calendar so that you can create useful content around what people are searching for. Because if you have a blog and you're not SEO optimizing it, or you're not basing it around what people are searching for, it's kind of a bit of a lucky dip as to whether people will find it, if people like it, if people know what to do. And also make sure you prioritize as well, because you can't get everything done, especially when you're working for a big company all in one go. So work on what's most important first and what meets your KPIs.
And if you're responsible for more than one language, you also need to make sure not to just translate, but localize. Localization is very important. It doesn't work without localization because every market is very different, and it doesn't work that you just translate everything you have, for example, in English into a different language. You will set similar KPIs and you will just expect it to work. It will probably not work, or never have I ever experienced any project where this strategy would ever work.
Nope.
Because the audience in different markets is different. Their maturity is very different when it comes to the topic you're trying to cover. So it costs. Going international costs a lot of money. Companies don't realize it. But if you invest at the beginning and do it right from the start, that also means that you can earn a lot of money by doing it right.
Yep. Yeah, I also see as well that people kind of assume that they spend, I don't know, 5, 10 grand a month on their English strategy, sometimes even more, like 50 grand, 100 grand if they're a big company, on their SEO every month in English or their local market. And then they think, oh, I'm going to translate some blog posts and that will translate into the same success as they're getting at home. And it doesn't work like that whatsoever. You need to be paying SEO prices, not translation prices, if you want to, grow. And also, talking about localization as well, it's so important because one example that I like to give is, for example, even things like holidays and stuff, baby showers, Valentine's Day. If you move that into the Czech Republic, you'd be looking for name days. You'd be looking for, gifts for kids for starting school, that sort of thing. And even products as well. Like you need to make sure that the product actually works in the target market, because in my local Tesco's, there are so many unwanted kind of bed cover sets, duvet cover sets that are always in the sale because they don't realize that Czech people have bigger pillows and they haven't localized their pillowcases, so nobody buys
Well,
it.
yeah, that's true. That's true. It
So
just works. It just works for IKEA.
yes,
Because IKEA thought the Czech consumers to buy just their, pillows and pillowcases, but it doesn't work to anyone else. And then
no.
once you buy at IKEA, you cannot buy anywhere else because it just doesn't fit.
Oh yeah, no, I have that problem. I have to buy all of my bedding from IKEA because we have IKEA pillows and
Yeah.
IKEA things. But in Tesco's, I would not be using an English size pillowcase because
Yeah.
it doesn't fit my pillow.
Also, when you're trying to optimize websites in different languages, or when you're at the initial stage, just trying to design the strategy, and you don't know how to start. If there's someone in your organization who's native to that country and is coming from customer service or sales team, it's good speaking with these people because they're facing the clients already. And those people who face the clients, they know a lot about how those clients resonate with certain topics, and they can actually help you to start designing slowly that strategy. So speak with people. Communication is the key.
And they can also help with things as well, like what the customers call the products. Because when I worked in the language industry, I think I gave the same example last week, that lots of people are searching for verbal translations. All of you know who work in translation know that verbal translations aren't a thing, it's actually interpreting. But because that's what so many people are searching for, you kind of need to include that on your website. So what you need to do is create blog posts like, what is the difference between translation and interpreting? And then you can put in your blog post like something like interpreting or verbal translations is actually called interpreting, and that way you can include it in a decent way. But just be careful that consumers are not going to use your set terminology to call their product, because they like to be awkward like that, and they often don't know the correct terminology for your products. Right, and now on to AI.
Wow. Never-ending topic that's going to be here for a very long time.
Yes, So what we need to be careful of with AI and MLMs is that they don't have access to search data. So whenever you're asking ChatGPT or other tools, can you give me keywords with high search volume? They're actually not able to do that unless they're integrated with an SEO tool or something like that that can use the SEO tool's data. But on their own, it's a bit of a myth that they're able to actually do your keyword research for you because they have no idea what people are searching for.
They're not able to do it, but they will provide you the data anyway.
Oh yeah, exactly. And then if you go and cross-check it in an SEO tool, it will be something really, really, really different. So just be careful of that if you're ever asked to do that or you think it's a good idea. And also AI isn't able to make strategies just yet. So yeah, I could go on all day about this, and I'm going to be doing a talk at Brighton SEO and also next week in the Czech Republic about kind of some of the cognitive biases that are seen in MLMs. But basically, they are not a good way of doing competitor analysis or anything like that. Anything that you should make a decision on just because they don't have access to data, especially in certain countries. It's biased to different forms of languages. They're biased to, kind of very normative norms in society rather than being representative of, minority communities and things like that. So yeah.
And when they don't know anything, they just make it up.
Exactly. So fact check. I saw a post recently that was talking about how Slovakia and Slovenia were both part of Yugoslavia. When actually, Slovakia was part of Czechoslovakia with us and nothing to do with it. Yet the little chat
They
GPT was
meant the former Eastern Bloc.
So yeah, I think that's kind of it from the theory side of things.
Yeah.
And I think what we can do now is we can get rid of my presentation and we can have a look at how some of this is done actually in the tool. Now, I'm going to be showing you in Dragonmetrics, of course, but just remember that these sort of strategies can be used in other tools as well, so that, not being biased to other SEO tools and that. So give me 2 seconds while this just cancels itself. If it wants to cancel itself, maybe it's decided that it likes being up. Bear with me. Okay, now let me see what I can do. Nope, it really does not want to work. Does anybody have any questions while we're waiting about anything that we've talked about? It can be anything related to keyword research or, international SEO.
Or strategies.
Pick our brains while we're here. Please ask questions so there's not any awkward silence while I'm trying to fix this. Martina, do you have any good examples that you could maybe share from your time at IKEA of how things were done or that you'd recommend?
Well, that was funny because when I started working at Ikea, I was working for the business unit Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary. And okay, so since it's been quite a long time, I think I can openly speak about it. There's no one just chase me for that. IKEA used to be an expert for coming up with their own terms, which they liked. And in those markets, the people who are responsible for creating such search terms and the content in general, they kind of thought that they will be able to teach people using different words than they were used to, but that never worked. Which is good because that's when I learned that even when you're big as IKEA and people are using one search term for something and you're trying to push them to start using a different search term for the same thing, it will never work. And this is when I actually came there and I had to convince the entire organization there that if majority of the consumers is using this, we also have to use this in order, to be the competitors online. And they're like, yeah, but this is the Ikea voice. It has nothing with tone of voice. Like keywords in general should have nothing to do with the tone of voice, because it should never stop you from attracting like more consumers. So if you work in an organization and someone, usually it's the management or people from content, are actually pushing you using certain search terms, but you know that people are searching for something totally different, like don't just let them do that. Provide the data, explain why it's not a good idea. It is okay using the synonyms. It's absolutely okay, and it's actually good in any strategy. That's something that we haven't mentioned, that using synonyms is always good, but it should not be like the top of your target keywords. Because if, I don't know, 98 people out of 100 are looking for search term A, and you know that only 25 are looking for search term B, like the B should not be your top priority. It definitely can be some priority within your overall strategy for certain landing pages, but you shouldn't just give it, that much attention. So Sarah, how is it?
We are getting there
Okay.
slowly, but I see that we've had some more questions. So why don't we answer the
Oh yeah.
questions?
Okay, I
Because
will read them. How do you
uh,
generally categorize keywords for e-commerce? That's
how do
good. We can show
oh,
them in the tool because
can do when my yes, it's my Chrome that's frozen. So that's what we're having issues with right now. When it comes to categorizing for keywords, I normally do it basically based on the product or the service, or also depending on the kind of category of the keyword. In Dragonmetrics, you're able to look at the different categories for each of the keyword when you're doing keyword research. So that really helps. And also once you've done your keyword research, you've added it to a campaign as well, you can use tagging tools as well to break them down and kind of automate the way that tagging is handled. So you can, for example, tag things by the words that they contain. You can tag them by, for example, some of the most common words in like a word cloud, something like that. So that's how I normally go about it. What about you, Martina?
yeah, well, so my strategy is very similar. I usually cluster everything, or if it's for e-commerce, I cluster it. If it's for services, I just run it in verticals, but it's still a cluster. And then I use the tags, because that's what actually really helps me, like being focused on what belongs in where. And when I cluster, that also means that with clusters, if it's a new e-commerce, with clusters also comes like the strategy for the information architecture of the website, but that's something that we can't cover today because we don't have that much time. And when it's already running e-commerce, this clustering also helps me to revision and audit the information architecture, and maybe say that we need to go a little bit deeper, or that there's not enough pages for advertising and it would be better building up more pages, etc.
Awesome. Next question is that we had a client insisting on translating their tagline, the catchy phrase under their company name. How does one coach a client in such a situation? Um, so in my case, it's always been quite difficult because basically they have to transcreate it. They have to write it afresh in the target language. Otherwise, it's not going to resonate and it's just going to sound a bit odd. So I think
And
basically,
sometimes in different languages, it can be even insulting, like really translating something.
oh yeah, no, I've seen that lots of times. So I think just maybe scaring them a little bit into some of the, mistranslations that have happened and tell them that they have to rewrite it in the target language just to make sure that, it's correct. Next question. So thinking about keyword research more and keyword research and zero volume, is this the best way to think about it? I assume you should balance zero volume and higher volume keywords based on goals and the search intent. And I'd love to see examples of the things to look for. We're actually going to be talking about this in a second. So of course, based on relevancy and things, you should be balancing different search volumes depending on what's available in your niche. Just kind of what we were trying to get across is don't be scared of zero volume keywords. or, you know, niche industries that do have lower volumes, because there are going to be some, for example, if you're going after, you know, laptops or something common, that you are going to have higher search volumes.
When you
And
say cluster, do you mean FL group of words or synonyms? So when I say cluster, I mean, you have an example of this at IKEA, right? We could show them what we mean under cluster. For example, you have beds, or what was it? You had beds or something different?
yeah,
I don't remember. Yeah.
so I'm
Go
going to
ahead.
use an English campaign for this, but if we
Okay.
go and take a look into rank tracking, if we go and take a look at keywords, so I am using Expedia's website. So they're a big website,
Okay.
they have lots
Never
of
mind.
different things. And what we can take a look at here is specific tags. So we can take a look at their flight related keywords. So we apply the filter here. And then we'll be able to get all of the different information about their flight related keywords. You'll be able to see kind of where they're ranking. You'll be able to see lots of different information. What you can also do is look at different competitors as well, depending on the segment. So if we go here to competitor risk discovery, these are all Expedia's competitors generally. So you've got things like hotels, you've got things like TripAdvisor, you've got, you know, rental cars, you've got airlines. But if I was going to put in, for example, rental cars and apply for the rental car tag, you can see that the competitors have completely changed. And they're all now rental car companies. So again, when you're doing your keyword research, what you can do is you can then take a look at, for example, enterprise, budget, Expedia, things like that. And more in the you know, research side of things, we can head into ranking research. Again, we can put in IKEA here.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we go to take a look at categories, for example, this is where it will tell you kind of all of the different categories. So we can look at home and garden, home furniture, bedroom furniture, business and industrial furniture, you know, living room furniture. And if we specifically want to look at keywords that are related to living rooms, we can click on that. It will filter down all the different options by the filters. So you've got here, for example, couches, sofas, couch, that sort of thing. And we can go through, click on these and add these to campaigns. We've got information like.
Yeah, and when I said clusters, this is exactly what I meant. So for a cluster, that would be living room, and then you would have like subgroups or subcategories of this cluster, which would be like couches, sofas, and and then there will be like fold-out couches. Is it fold-out couch, right? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, the pull-out beds,
Yeah, yeah. Or
sofa
you
beds.
have coffee tables, or whatever you call them in English, is a coffee table that you're using in yeah, yeah. And all of sorts of these things that you're using actually in the living room as a living room furniture. And you would just divide it like there will be a cluster of these like coffee tables because they might have different names. I don't know. There will be a different of these couches because some are like fold-out sofas, some are sectional seats, etc.
Exactly. And this is
Was it
where,
clear, or do you still, Jill, need me to maybe show it on another example? Okay, good.
amazing. And this is as well where you can take a look at things like, you know, if we go in here, we can take a look at tag assistance. And this is where we can come in and tag the keywords by, for example, using a word cloud if you're new to this. So for example, we can tag keywords by flights, hotels, rental cars, you know, hotels, things like that. And this is where as well we can set kind of different brand rules to break things down. So imagine, again, we were looking at you know, IKEA and things like that. We could label things like Brimness and different IKEA brands that they have as branded. So it comes up tagged, and we can break that data down in reports. And also as well, you can tag keywords by the words that they contain. So for example, automatically tag things like shoes. If with the shoe tag, if they contain the word like sneaker, flip-flop, sandals, you know, pumps, high heels. So maybe we can head to just a general keyword research area and show you how we would go about different things. So I think we've briefly shown you kind of starting off with things like competitor research or research on your own domain. So what you can do is add in a website here. You can look for it. You can also see what countries people come from. So if there's international SEO people here, if you specifically wanted to research Germany, you can click on that and it will give you like the German keywords or the French keywords. You can also as well take a look at, top organic keywords, their main organic competitors, which are probably surprising and quite different to the competitors that you think, because you can see that Etsy is there as well, top organic pages, categories as well, and things like that. But the best way of doing things is just heading to organic keywords here and taking a look at what keywords they're ranking for, and then you can get inspiration for your own website and decide, okay, I would quite like to rank for couch and I would like to rank for dresser and beds and bookshelves and things. Also while taking a look at these, but we will take a look at them in a second. You can also find out their competitors, and this as well, we mentioned keyword gaps, so this is really useful because we can take a look at, for example, Target. I am not very good at US shops for buying furniture or even UK ones. I can tell you the Irish ones, but that's about it. Or the Czech ones. So what we're doing is here, this is the keyword gap. So we're looking at Ikea, Target, and Home Depot and comparing 3 websites together.
While it's loading, can I just mention something I forgot before? So when you're doing international SEO, you can also like target English in different markets. For example, you're in Germany, your company's in Germany, and you're targeting people speaking German with the German and English in Germany. And when it comes to search volumes, again, if you're looking for this exactly same list of keywords for United States English, United Kingdom English, and German English, there's going to be probably completely different search volumes, and that's absolutely normal. But you always need to look into the data for the market that you're trying to target with that language. It's very important.
And you also need to adjust your KPIs accordingly, because I've seen companies have, for example, the same KPI in the Czech Republic as they have in the US, even though, we have 10 million people in the country and you can't compare that to America. So of course, what's realistic is going to be very different. So yeah, here we can see if we click on keyword gap that we're able to take a look at things like keywords in common. We can look at things like keyword opportunities. And keyword gap will be here, and it will give us all of the keywords that, for example, these 2 websites rank for and Ikea doesn't. And even by looking at the top here, we can see that, for example, Home Depot is beating Ikea in the SERPs, but that's maybe because they do a lot more products. So here we can see here. And so some of them will be completely irrelevant, like ice cream near me. But for example, if you wanted to filter it down by beds, for example, we can apply the filter, and then it will give you, lots of decent information. So there we go. We can see Ikea is not ranking for all of these different bed-related keywords when actually the other 2 are. So those opportunities for Ikea. I think what we can do now as well is I see that, we've only got about 10 minutes left. We can move on to, the standard keyword research side of doing things. And I might show you an example actually from what Martina was talking about different countries and different, Englishes. So I'm going to show you a keyword in the UK, runners. You know exactly what
That's a good one. That's my favorite.
Exactly what I'm getting at here. So here we can see, lots of different things for runners. While I'm here, we can take a look at some of the details as well. So we can see, for example, it's quite a difficult keyword because the average number of backlinks needed to rank for this is 468, and that is quite a lot. Sometimes it's even more than that. So choosing purely based on, search volume is not a good idea, because if it's not realistic that you will have 468 backlinks, you're not going to have much of a chance of ranking. So it's really important that you go and find something more relevant as well and look at things like the cost per click and the search intent, which is navigational and commercial. But let's look at the SERPs. So the SERPs here for, runners are things like hallways and carpets, carpet rugs, all of this kind of thing. In Ireland, I don't speak very differently to people in the UK. But when it comes to runners,
buy sneakers.
Don't give it away. Meant to be a surprise. You can see that our SERPs for runners are very, very different. So we speak the same language, everybody speaks it the same, but doing keyword research, you really, really, really have to localize. And this will probably be a good keyword that we can actually go into and take a look. So we can see here, for example, the searches, the search intent, organic difficulty here. So luckily, lots of these are quite nice and easy, probably just because Ireland's a small market. So we can go through and choose which keywords we want to take a look at. And organic click-through rate is basically how likely people are going to click on, organic results rather than shopping ads and things like that. But if I let me just head back to the UK. If I actually put in trainers, what you will be able to see is that the keyword difficulty will probably be very different, and trying to find, surprisingly, it's not too bad actually with trainers, but if you take a look at, for example, like laptops, you'll see loads and loads of competition. So, oh, I'm back on Ireland again. Hopefully this will work. If not, I'll have to go back to the UK or America to show you properly. And this as well, this is a really, really good example of why different markets are different, have different maturity levels, and you can set different KPIs and have different keywords for them. Because what would work in Ireland, for example, having laptops and things like that, we're about to see that in the United States, it is not going to work, because it's a very, very hard keyword with lots of backlinks that you need. So if you want to rank for your laptop store, you're going to have to go through all of these and look for more specific keywords. And this is where your search volumes are going to go down before you see that the keywords start getting easier. So we can see that if we want to start looking at easier ones, for example, we need to look at things like refurbished Dells or portable monitors with laptops, and things like that, if we really want to be in a realistic chance of ranking for them.
Can we show that example of the low keyword volume and the CPC?
Yes, we can. What was the keyword that had a really good example?
I have one in Czech.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to, I can send it to chat.
Or you can just tell me and I'll type it in.
Okay. Vytěžování dat z faktur.
Oh yeah, no, that really long one. I'll just copy and paste it because otherwise I'll be here for a while.
So that means invoice data extraction. And in Czech, there's very low search volume. However, you can see that the price for advertising is quite high.
Here we go. So there were no keyword ideas found for this keyword. So again, shows that, it's not very popular, only 20 monthly search volumes. But you can see the cost per click is like nearly $5.
Yeah.
So again,
so this is the example someone was asking for in the chat, and that's what I said. It does not mean when the tools are not providing the search volumes that people are actually not searching for it, and that there are not competitors bidding on that. This is a good example. And invoice data extraction is really a thing, because most companies now want to save on FTEs, and this is something what actually really helps them to make their processes running smooth.
Really good point. So I think for the last 5 minutes, what we can do is quickly show how you can report on some of these. Even in times of research, you can actually use kind of reporting tools to create decent looking reports for clients. So if we had to research, for example, and we want to take a look at organic trends, what we can do is we can set it to a custom website. So we don't have this set up for tracking or anything. We can choose what we want to show here. So I think we'll have all of this. We can take a look at this for any market. And again, like we said, for countries like, for example, Belgium, you're able to choose, for example, Belgium Dutch, Belgium French, Belgium German. Not all SEO tools can do that. So if you are specializing in a particular language or international business, do make sure that you can do things like this as well. So we'll pop that in, and that will pull the data now kind of in real time. You can do things like keyword gaps in here as well. So again, we'll put in ikea.com, we'll put in argos.co.uk, we'll do the United Kingdom. You can put keywords in common, you can put keyword gaps, keyword opportunities. We're going to take a look at the top 100, for example. Save the changes. And what it will do, it will pull that, in real time. And if you want to use filtering options, you can go back in here. And if, for example, you want to look at, for example, keywords that matches or contains bed, you can do that as well, just to make it a little bit more relevant and look at those categories. You can look as well at organic competitors. You can take a look at countries. So again, we'll just change that to IKEA. And we can look at categories as well. And then once we've done this and we're happy with it, we can use this to kind of send to potential clients to say, look, this is where you're lacking at the moment. This is where we can sell our services. You can add in logos and everything. And this is something that I do whenever I'm doing audits for people or something like that. I'll always make one of these reports, I'll publish it, and then I'll send them the URL. And I'll also add in comments into here as well, and just give them all of the data that they need to, make an informed decision. And this way, this kind of data doesn't look too scary to stakeholders. Which is really important because, again, the budget holders that you're dealing with, especially in large companies, don't always know how to do SEO very well or don't even know very much about it at all. So having this in a way that they can understand that actually talks to them nice and easily is really important.
And I have to say, because I've been working with like most of the SEO tools, and none of these tools provided such a good rapport builder like Dragon Metrics does. And what I really like on this rapport builder is the fact that you don't have to build the reports just from what is within the tool. You can also use the connectors for like third-party applications. So if you're running Power BI or if you're running anything else, you can basically just embed it, which is amazing.
Like a studio in there, you can take things from CSVs as well and pop that into, and there's loads of different possibilities. So yeah. Right, we've got 4 minutes left. So does anybody have any questions at all for us before we finish up?
Can you share some tip advice on setting KPIs? What are some metrics we should prioritize? It depends on your business very much. But when it comes to SEO KPIs, what I often see is that we're very pushed to adopt keywords or deliver the keywords that we can rarely be responsible for, because the SEO's job is to bring people organically on the website. And what they do on the website, it's not something that SEO has so much in their hands, because it's a lot about UX, it's a lot about content, etc. So when it comes to purely SEO and a business, you should definitely track your positions. You should definitely have KPIs that you will overcome certain competitors for certain search terms or keyword clusters. That would be a good KPIs to start with, but the world doesn't work the way we want it. So when you work for an organization, they will probably push you to have different KPIs like organic leads or organic orders, etc. And that's just something that is inevitable. But this is something that's very hard to predict how it's going to be, because we don't know when Google's going to roll out another amazing broad core update or another spam update or another whatever update. But if you're doing SEO right, at least you can be calm that things will just turn out fine.
I think as well, lots of companies that say B2B, you don't make sales online, especially if they have a service rather than, B2B products that people buy online. And so many companies that I've worked in have said, okay, SEO needs to make X, Y, Z sales, when actually it's not down to SEO because the leads go over to salespeople. There can be lots of things like the salespeople don't close the lead, something happens.
And they qualify them and they don't like them, for example, right?
Exactly. So try and make it relevant to SEO. So things that you can actually, impact. And I think one little tool that we have as well is lots of people often, or managers are like, I want to know the money. So we have a little tool in Dragometrics that you can use called ROI forecasting, where you put in, for example, your estimated conversion value, your estimated conversion rate. And then you have KPIs here. So you can say all keywords on page 2 move to page 1. You can break that down by tags as well, because again, different tags will have different success rates and things like that. And then you can see the monetary difference. So you can see here, for example, the current value of this keyword based on the conversion rate and the positions and things is $90. But if you move it to page 1, it'll be 225. So again, doing things like this is quite a helpful exercise, especially for stakeholders, because they can see kind of the money behind it. But you have to educate them that it's not, 100% science, because again, there's lots of factors that, impact closing, and it's almost always not down to the SEOs to actually close things.
Okay, so we have another question. When you look at results of keywords, are you looking specifically at traffic driven from the keywords and then pairing that with, say, conversions in Google Analytics based on the landing pages that are pulling in keywords and driving conversions? So when I'm looking at the keyword results and the traffic it gives, so in any website analytics, you can connect Google Search Console with the website analytics and you can take a look at it. However, it's necessary to say that, for example, in GA4, the traffic is calculated a little bit differently than it used to be in the past. So you will definitely see different data for clicks in Google Search Console and for traffic or visit, or no, they call it differently now, users in Google Analytics 4. So it's difficult to pair it. You will for example see running it for the last touch attribution model that last touch came from organic. That's where it's possible to pair it. But you cannot forget that every channel actually somehow contributed, because usually people do not make the action last touch, and last touch is not first touch in most cases. It depends very much on your business. It can happen that for your business it can be different. However, there's a lot of things that are actually like coming in a way that it's just difficult to say it like that. So for me, there's various scenarios, and in every company it might be a little bit different, and it very much depends on their attribution modeling, on their business model, etc. Sorry, I wasn't able to answer your question properly. Maybe Sarah has a different point of view, but I'm just, coming from my like experience and in industries that I'm working at.
It's always quite difficult to answer such questions because, again, I know all SEOs just say it depends, but it really does depend on the business, how they're measuring it, what tools they have in place to measure it, what they've got available. Like we have lots of, in Report Builder, there are different ways that you can, for example, take a look at Google Search Console modules. You can look at Google Analytics modules and like certain sales and e-commerce, things like that. But again, it really comes down to what capabilities that you have, what your KPIs are, and what you're able to do, I would say.
And I will just add last thing, the fact that someone clicked from Google search for a certain search term on your website and made a conversion, it doesn't mean that the motivation to run a conversion didn't make any other landing page, because when users click on your site, they end up at some page. But since you're using like internal linking strategies, etc., they can just get from one page to another, then to another, and then they make a conversion. And sometimes they do it for another visit. So you can really say that, you know, this specific click with this specific term led into a conversion. It's really difficult with organic to measure this, actually.
And you have external factors as well. They might have seen a TV ad, or like we have in our supermarkets locally, that you still have people who, like salespeople, who go and give you a taste of a certain product or something like that. And who knows, maybe they found the product because they tried it in the supermarket and it tasted really nice. So again, as I mentioned right at the beginning, there isn't an exact science, and some of our data isn't 100% correct, but, you know, we've got to make do with what we can. And at least as long as we're tracking things, you know, that's most important. Okay, I think we're done. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining our presentation or webinar. If you have any questions after this, do feel free to get in touch with myself or Martina. You can find us either on LinkedIn, or I think you should have got my email address through booking this. And yeah, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. So hopefully you found it useful. And thank you, Martina, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Have a good